Cat?
Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh, okay. You didn't have enough zest to it. It's a little bit like...
What he said after all that.
Oh,
hey,
man.
buddy.
Listen, I got love for Cat, bro. That game against Jimmy changed that man. That game where Jimmy played against all the role play.
That ain't changed him. I don't know what changed him, because even after that, we seen him get walked up and down the floor. Joel Embiid cooked him and Gobert at the same time. It was nasty work.
It took some time, but you could
got to New York.
I'll give you credit because he was good last year too. Like last couple years, Cat's
been good, but he hasn't been this. Like he looks like a real dominant NBA center right now. And for the last 5 years, it's just been two. It's been Jokic and Embiid.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, at the top of the league. I'm just saying in general, in his level. I mean, he's still not at the level of Jokic and Embiid at the top of their game. Saying past couple of years, definitely saw something different, because I'm pretty sure. Actually, I don't know about this timeline now. When did Ben choke him out?
That was 2021 or 2020.
So that was post the game. That was still post. Yeah. All right. So maybe
it was after Jimmy got out of there, and they had to learn. You had to get from out. See, that was the problem. I think the real problem was Minnesota, because even when you look at Andrew Wiggins, he left Minnesota and he began to flourish. He began to find himself.
All right.
For a little while.
He had one good year, bro. He had one good year, and everyone's like, "This is the Wiggins we were talking about. This is the way." And then he sucked all over again, and then he was unplayable on the Warriors. So,
Wiggins, you remember they called him Maple Jordan when he was coming out of Kansas.
I was about to make the Maple Jordan drop in a second.
Ain't that another flag mate, Pierre? Another leaf.
Yeah, so you must love yourself an Andrew Wiggins. Love the Gilgeous-Alexander cousins,
the winless for Wiggins.
Come on, Brody.
Oh, buddy.
Oh man, thank God we didn't do that. Anyways, well, I'm Parth. It's the Philly Blitz Pod, episode 102, powered by 14th and Market. I'm here with Pierre and Quell. Clearly it's also basketball season because I got the game on right here. Oh, big purr. Yep. Easy bucket.
Not you getting him get love.
How y'all doing, man?
Doing good, man. Doing real good, man. We got on-field football back, Eagles OTAs. We're trudging forward in the training camp, man. Things are looking up.
Yeah, man. Wubba-lubba-dub-dub to those who celebrate. It is the one and only Marquel Fripp-Owens. And it felt good to get, as I would like to say, back in my element. For getting into Eagles research up in the wee hours of the night, just having fed the baby. Baby went back to sleep, and I'm looking around like, this is me time. We lock in. I miss these days. I can't wait for these, 99, 97, probably at this point, days until season opener. So we're getting closer and closer, but this I have to do for now.
Absolutely. And I mean, after this episode, once you're free, I was going to Twitter to retweet our link, and I see that Drewski just tweeted that Could Have Been Records Philadelphia just dropped. So and the first video has a guy with his pants off screaming and crying. So I interested to see what that's gonna be like.
Gotta watch that, John.
That's gonna be nuts, dude. But anyways, like Pierre said, we got OTAs going on. We got to hear from some of the coaches over the past week. I know we had mentioned that we were gonna do like a schedule episode, but we're gonna do that after the 53 drops, just so that we have a little bit more context on who the team's gonna be, what we're looking at, what the other teams are gonna look like, and we'll give you a detailed breakdown of all that then. But today,
we need that soundboard. But until then, I'll be it. Boo.
Listen, man, it's the off season. There's so much bullshit to talk about, dude. We're gonna be talking about stuff that probably in like 4 months is gonna be like, dude, why were we having that conversation? What a waste of my time. Hey, listen, it's what we signed up for. These people signed up to have their time wasted listening to this because we like this, and I don't know why. Sometimes I'll have a existential crisis. Why am I putting all of my energy and time and happiness in the hands of 22-year-olds who sometimes don't even want to practice, man. But yet I do it every year, just like I tell myself the Sixers are going to win every year. So here we are. We're back. Let's get back to it.
Being a Sixers fan is Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. No, it is. It's a mental health issue. I mean, I should probably get disability from it, if we're being honest.
I'm not going to let you guys do this right now. Right now, the vibes are mediocrely high. It is partly sunny in Philadelphia in terms of our weather check. We are almost, a month, maybe a little over a month away from the NBA draft with the Sixers. The world is their oyster. So right now, we deserve happiness.
Let me ask you something.
Pain for so much.
Let me ask you something. Has the excitement of 3 kind of worn a little bit for you guys? I don't know. Like if it was 1, and maybe this is like just being greedy or whatever, but if it was 1 or 2 where it was like, one of those consensus, like it's like, oh, you're gonna take Harper or you're gonna take Cooper Flag, like I just wanted something easy like that, man. And now
how much of this is because you're not an Ace Bailey guy?
Dude, I might be. It's honestly day to day. It's so day to day. And then I'm just like,
it's working.
Well, it kind of is, but then I'm just like, bro, like,
no, I understand.
Look, he's either gonna suck. He's either gonna suck or he's gonna be nice. And I've seen a lot of guys come here and suck, dude. And I get it. We have guys who are better at development now and everything like that. But Jesus, man, some of that stuff just makes me nervous. I don't know. I just gonna win, man. And the people who are just like, oh, you need to just move on and drop Joe. Not realistic. All right. You need to wait it out, see everything and get out of there. And then
did the words drop Joe come out of my mouth?
Oh yeah, it has.
I never
don't know
said
if they came out of your mouth.
I never said
it may have came off your tongue.
Yeah. Don't try to hide.
I never said trade.
Do not try to hide from this. You're like, it's over. It's over. Move on. And I also remember saying, build around Maxime McCain. I remember this. I don't forget, bro. I remember you saying all this. Oh,
I did say it was over. I did say
Parth came full Pusha T.
Until I'm proven otherwise, I'll continue to believe it is over.
No, dude. He went to Kawhi's doctor. Give my man a chance, bro. What is this? Well, what kind of like vibe putting out is there from the vibes and aura guy? He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna believe it until I see.
You want to talk about vibes and aura with the Sixers, brother? You want to go down that road?
It's because the 76ers? Like you. Look. It's people like you with your fake love, man. Fake love. Go at them with the full heart, open heart, ready to be broken. That's the way. Don't go in there.
They already broke my heart.
No, but you go in there with your shields up. Go in there innocent every time. Hey, nothing's gonna happen. Oh, what's the worst that could happen? And deal with it every year.
After they blew the 3-1 lead to the Hawks, all of my optimism just disappeared.
All right, then just be a Hawks fan, bro. Down in Atlanta. Jesus Christ, all of it disappeared. Right? He's like, oh, ever since that Hawks series. Oh, what's the closest NBA team to you, Pierre? It's not the Magic. What team is north of Savannah?
That will never happen. I will never be a Georgia sports fan. Never.
And so then do this right, man. Do this right. Don't do that. Don't do the half-ass. We'll believe it when we see it. Joe is rehabbing his knee right now, doing everything he can. He's probably on the leg extension machine, working that thing, going up in weight, Rocky music playing in the background, Eye of the Tiger. We'll be back. That's how we do it, man. You got to be out before you get back in. That's all I can say.
I believe it when I see it.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know what? Any success we get, I'm gonna remember when he said this. You're not reaping any of that. You only get to reap what you sow, and you're not sowing. Hell no.
That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about.
Receipts are taken.
To answer your question before we get there, I don't want to say that the energy has waned off from having the third pick, because a guy like me, these are my favorite times of the year. Kind of a great transition period, but gives you an opportunity to look at team building ideology. Do you take the player right there that people would be considered the best? Do you come up with a trade package and continue to build the roster, continue to add depth, and probably come along with another solid player? Go along with that way. So it's a lot to see about that. It's a lot of similar ways of thinking as to what we think about this Eagles team when they go into off seasons and how they could or could not approach off seasons. And when you talk about this year as OTAs begin, I mean, where to start at? So you like Parth said, you talked about hearing from a lot of the coaches early on. Most importantly, that's what everybody wants to hear about. We heard from Kevin Petula. And I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was ecstatic from what he was saying. I don't want to say I didn't like it, but it was kind of typical coach speak. I didn't leave from there like, yeah, let's go, Kevin Petula. I'm gonna run through a wall for you. He kind of said exactly what I think he should have said and would have said in these instances.
Like you said, I think it was a lot of coach speak, a lot of talk about putting players in the best positions to succeed, which that is good. I'm not going to complain about hearing that because, you want your coaches, specifically offensive, you want them to, say that. And it's, interesting because we hear Nick say that all the time.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think, Petula being Nick's sort of right-hand man is kind of expected. To hear that because they kind of have the same philosophy, came up under Frank Reich and everything like that. But one thing I didn't hear him talk about, which was kind of, I'm not going to say alarming, but just kind of my ears perked up because I didn't hear it, was kind of like the whole play sequencing and matchup and on like a week-to-week basis, how he kind of structures his offense. Because I don't remember which reporter asked him, but like what was his offensive philosophy? And he just repeated the same, like putting players in the best positions to succeed. I kind of wanted him to go a little bit more into like detail, kind of, give us a little bit something more to chew.
That kind of leads me into what was going to be my next question for you guys. Because
let me just speak to that real quick, Quell.
Go ahead, Parth.
Because I think you guys both make good points. I think it all just kind of falls into like, I forget which one you said it now, but you guys kind of said it's like what Nick says. I think it's just the team's philosophy. And I think what we're going to see from Petula is that he's just going to be a team guy. He's been around the team. He's been around all these people for a long time, and he understands how they work. And I think the thought process behind Petula, maybe this was the thought process behind Brian Johnson, and maybe it just didn't work out. That year was weird. We can all agree on that. But I think it's just to keep continuity, right? We talk about it every year that Jalen Hurts has not had the same OC and all this type of stuff. And then it's interesting because then you have AJ Brown with his comments of like, doesn't matter who the OC is, they're gonna mold their offense to Jalen Hurts.
Hey, to that point, bro, Shady foul for that, man. I imagine AJ Brown went to him in confidence,
right? And I don't even know. It's so much of it can get lost in translation. It's such a dumbass quote, and I mean that's just what Shady does. That's what that show does specifically. Like it's just that show is the epitome of just like a bunch of like dumbass ex-players getting together and just like screaming at each other. Like it's painful to watch sometimes. And then Manuel Acho will put on his voice, be like, let me break this down for you right now, real quick. Let me paying attention. Are we locked in right now? I'm going to talk with my hands the whole time. Like, bro, take a deep breath. You can breathe. You can breathe while you're talking. It's crazy coming from me. But the point being, like, it's true. That's what any OC is going to do if they come in. Any successful offensive coordinator is going to come in and help mold the offense to the offense, right? Like you can have your own flares and flavors, and I'm sure we'll see them throughout the year. You see them with every play caller. There's different ways they like to call plays, different combinations, right? It's like a boxer, right? You have the same punches, right? But it's a different combination of punches that you use that a different boxer uses, and it's the same kind of concept where it's like, hey, we're going to have these base core plays because, damn it, they work. I don't know what to tell you. They just won a Super Bowl. So we'll have those, and then we're going to have, some added flavor on top of it. But it's basically going to be the same thing. And, I mean, look, Kellen came in and added some stuff, but it's been essentially the same offense for the last couple of years. It's like, every OC adds something and it's evolved, but the core remains the same.
Certainly, man. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Pierre.
I mean, I don't know if, like you said, Parth, I don't know if I'd say much will quote unquote change. Like, I think it'll look different at times just because, Petula is his own coach. He's his own man. He has his own ideas and flavors for, what he wants to do offensively in terms of game planning and, approaches on a week-to-week basis and everything like that. But he does come from that right Sirianni tree. So I don't think there'll be like a reinventing of the wheel. But like I said, I think there will be like moments where we say, oh, this is a Kevin Petula thing, or this is something that he likes, or just things of that nature.
So before I lay out the question, I was going to ask you guys, to your point, Parth, I think that was an excellent way of explaining him. Or I believe it was you, Parth, that said it. That said he was just going to be a team dude. Where if you, I believe it was Peter Schrager who was on ESPN earlier the other day, and he basically stated that he was curious about the whole situation, like who is Kevin Patullo, what should we expect about Kevin Patullo, and he didn't really want to know the same thing he gave us, the coach Flair BS. So he texted Frank Wright, and he asked Frank Wright the exact question of who is Kevin Patullo, what should we expect, kind of thing. And in Frank Wright's answer, basically, I remember it word for word, but to paraphrase it, ultimate team guy, selfless, selfless, will always be the one, basically the bridge in the middle between everybody, which is kind of everything that we've heard about him up to this point. He was always the guy that was when Nick was too harsh on the player, or when Nick was going too far left, he was the hey, you need to come back a little bit, the real me in kind of guy. So it'll be interesting for me to see exactly how that ties into him as a play caller now. But even beyond that, like I continue to say, he gave us a lot of fluff. But I do think there are a lot of things that we could take from it. More so, I guess the question I should pose to you guys is, what stood out to you that he said specifically?
I mean,
that's the thing. It's not really nothing that stood out to me. Like, it was all just coach speak. Like, I don't.
I also, to be fair, man, like Quell, it's a good question, but and you should always be, trying to read between the lines, see what they're saying with what they're not saying and things like that. But this was like the first press conference of OTAs.
Yeah. Of course,
it's like,
but I wasn't necessarily looking at it in terms of so how are you going to use Devonta Smith and AJ Brown today?
In terms of how you're approaching the game. Yeah. I think just what stood out is that I think you covered it best, is that he's a student of the game, and that he's learning as well, and that the QB room and the offense is also going to be like a more Socratic type of room, where it's just like, hey, speak up. It's just because you're new doesn't mean you can't speak up, and we want to make sure we're hearing from everybody, making sure we're understanding how these plays are working best for our specific players, right? It's about tailoring to your players and their needs. And again, you can say it's interesting, but it's also just such generic coach speak, where it's like, hey, let's see how this looks as the season goes on. And yeah, and I think if it comes to like asking about or trying to look to see what the offense is going to look like, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit, I think it's pretty useless to do that at this point. AJ and Devontae both were not out there today, so Dallas Goedert was targeted often. They didn't throw the ball very deep. So OTAs are always just kind of weird,
I will say though, him bringing up Chan Gailey when they asked him, I think they asked him who or which coach does he mirror himself after or something like that.
Which
but hearing him
basically influenced him the most.
Hearing him bring up Chan Gailey instead of like a Sirianni or a Frank Reich was kind of.
I believe he did. He brought up all three at a point, but he brought up Chan Gailey multiple times when he was asked about just different coaches and things, because he was asked a similar question of that nature twice. And the first time he just said Chan Gailey, and the second time it was, well, yeah, Frank Wright and Nick Sirianni, of course, and then of course we mentioned Chan Gailey, but the Chan Gailey mention was, I guess, not necessarily what him mentioning Chan, but how he talked about Chan and talked about how it's basically what stood out to him during that time, and how he was able to watch Chan, and they went into a meeting room, and quarterback, I think he said the quarterback was Tyler Thigpen, and they basically like, we got to come up with an entire new offense. So what's the word going to be? And they were listening. They were just willing to listen to any and everything during that time. And he looked at him throw shit at a wall and watch it stick or fall. And they came out, and that's where the whole no huddle spread concepts in the offense came from. And then the pistol in the NFL, which he said that there wasn't a lot of that. And I think it was 08 that time was. But just basically the evolution of that offense. And it made me wonder exactly how all that could tie to his time in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts and his love of the no huddle time offense, and us just generally, and just us generally asking for more pistols. So maybe this right here could be the final marriage between it all that we've been looking for. So there's a lot of things that stood out to me. Hell, how he referred to as Scott Fitter and talked about what he brings to as the quarterback room, and kind of what he referred to himself when they asked him about how do he foresee his role changing as basically the middleman that continues to reel in Nick. And how he explained Scott as well, basically like we look forward to the ideas that he brings, and kind of something that you explained early on in a couple podcasts, Pierre, of this ain't just a quarterback coach. Maybe they could draft Harold Fannin, and maybe they're into his ideas in terms of how he ran this offense, because it was a pretty wonky offense.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this is a guy who's been a head coach before, right? Like, he was in charge of, putting together game plans and play calling and things of that nature. So I think he's going to be a valuable resource for them to lean on, especially Kevin, as he, as a first-time offensive coordinator.
Where did Chan Gailey go to college?
Go to college or coach at college?
Go to college.
That's a good question.
Was it Florida, Parth?
Oh, yeah, why are you looking it up? Right, it was Florida. Damn right, it was Florida. Come on now. Come on. No, I mean that's a deep ass Quell and Pierre cut to grab out of there, because I did not pay attention to that. But yeah, I mean, it'll just be interesting to see. I think every year we see the Eagles try some new stuff. Like I said, there's been some additions, but there's also always, in the end, regression to the mean of just like what this offense is and what they like to do. There's just certain things that they're comfortable with. But you always have to evolve, right? So it'll just be interesting to see what counters they have off of, the things that made them successful last year,
Mm-hmm.
So one last question before we move on from Patullo. Like, we've talked about it, on numerous pods before this, and, we've alluded to it, just here within the first 20 minutes of this pod, but just Patullo's role as sort of the middleman in terms of him being the guy who was in charge of kind of, I guess, what's the term I want to use? Kind of teaching the new offensive coordinators or new coaches Sirianni's offense, or kind of being that middleman of sorts. Like, how much do we think that'll, help him, in his role as a first-time offensive coordinator?
That's what I was speaking to at the beginning, of just like saying that it's going to be a more Socratic kind of room. A lot of coaches are like, I'm going to tell you what you do and you're going to listen. And I mean, that's clearly not how the Eagles approach business just in general with football. But I think that stood out to me, especially just because we've heard from Patullo in the past about the emotional management that he's done. And I think moving up to OC, you're definitely more bandwidth constrained because you just have more responsibilities baseline. But I think in the same breath, they have their relationships, right? Like you have natural dynamics from the last couple of years. And so like,
and I think
middle, I think he's comfortable doing that. And sorry, just like one more thing. I think the coaches that they've brought in, I mean, like you said, they've brought in a former head coach, so these are people who aren't afraid to speak up and use their voice in a room. And I think that's the most important thing. And that's what they try to breed on the Eagles is like, if you see something, say something, let's all just be honest.
Yeah. And I think to that point, like the whole continuity aspect of it, like just because, he's been around Nick for so long, he's been around this Eagles roster for so long, like he knows the guys he's going to be coaching, right? He knows what they're good at. He knows, where they may need a little bit of, coaching up, what areas they may need a little bit of coaching up in. And so I think, him knowing his personnel, we talk about it all the time, just managing the personalities in that locker room and everything like that. I think it's going to yield positive results with him as the OC.
Yeah, man, I do think it'll be a work in progress. And he kind of harped on that himself, where he think that it'll help basically having this working relationship with them prior and knowing them as people, and kind of like you said, the ins and outs of them as players. But he's also harped on how he has to continue to learn them, which I understand as a play caller. You got to understand what gets your players rolling and how to get them to tick at what time. It's a lot that go into the nuances of play calling. We've had these conversations for years up to this point.
I got you, Kevin. Throw AJ a couple slants or a crosser and throw Devontae one post, and they'll be heated up. That's how you do it.
He's called plays before, right? That 1 year when he was with the Jets, I think 2015.
I can't confirm more than that.
I think I remember reading that.
Yeah. But I mean, I think just in total, just to wrap up, I think offensively, just in terms of philosophically, they know who they are, right? They know they're gonna be a physical football team. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna lean on offensive line. Like, I don't think Patullo should take any sort of like drastic shift in their offensive approach. And I mean, it's pretty hard to, mess up when you have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith.
Yeah, don't say
Dallas
that.
Goedert.
Do not say that.
Clearly not.
No, I mean,
Clearly not.
What are you on? That was insane.
I mean, is it really? Is it insane to say?
Yes.
Clearly
Yes,
not.
it's insane to say.
And I mean, I get you. To his point, I mean, even despite as bad as the offense looked and everything, by the time we got to the end of the year and you looked at where the Eagles ranked statistically, they were still a top 10 offense, as bad as everything were. But are you serious? You're gonna say that product was sustainable? Like nothing could go wrong?
We saw the drop off you can have when you have so many things fall your way, and that's naturally how it goes. If you make a Super Bowl, a ton of stuff falls your way. And that's what makes the repeats all the more remarkable. I think it's crazy to say that like you have all this talent and like what's the worst that could go wrong, because shit, dude, there's been a lot of talented teams in the past that have not made it happen. And just because the Eagles made it happen once doesn't necessarily mean they can do it again. Going back to the conversation we had last week about, is this a top 5 team of all time? That's why they're a top 5 team of all time, right? It's that despite all the talent, which is kind of ridiculous to say, despite all the talent, but despite all the talent, they were able to consistently win games and all get together and do it. Because, like, dude, all it takes is one blow up. All it takes is like a couple games where somebody's not getting enough, or, they feel like they're ignored. And all of a sudden, you're just dealing with so much more. And I think the Eagles try to do everything.
But that's like we just talked about. Like, Patullo's been around these guys for years. He knows them.
He just said himself that he's figuring out how to get these guys going. There's gonna it'd be ignorant to say that there's not going to be a learning process, right?
Of course, there's a learning curve. Yeah.
And that's why I just think you just can't be like, oh, like what's the worst that could go wrong? Because like, yeah, they're talented, but a ton of shit can go wrong, bro. They can drop a couple more balls. If we don't catch a couple of those passes against the Panthers, you drop that Panthers game, right? And there's so many games like that, right? Where a couple of days, it's football, right? And you never know how the ball is going to bounce. So, don't jinx me, man. That was insane. That was insane activities. I'm not worried. Oh my God, I'm worried. I'll tell you that much.
Clip him, and that's going to be all the aura in the world.
I'm telling you.
Just as we get out of here, I guess my biggest thing from what I want to see from him, I guess,
about to end the podcast
as a whole. No,
you said as we get out of here.
I said as we move on from him. I guess I should have been more specific. But as we move on to the next topic, I guess my biggest thing is it's Sirianni's term, for lack of a better term, in my opinion. Maybe I could be crazy and I could be coming up with this entire dynamic in my head. As you guys can tell, I'm excited just to have them back on the field and us to have something to talk about. But we've had the whole let's get Jalen Hurts guys in and things of that nature. And we saw how it went with Brian Johnson, whether it was his fault or whose fault it was, or whatever went into the multiplicities of why it just didn't work. But you can make the argument that this is the second, but possibly the first real time where this is a Nick guy in. I mean, you can make the argument Shane was the Nick guy, and we saw how it worked. But we got a Nick guy in instead of I don't want to say instead of a Jalen guy, because of course for Kelee he was a middleman, and that's the one thing I continue to point back to, even just referring to the last conversation we were having, where that article that came out about Jalen and Nick, they basically said how they just needed a middleman between them, and how Kellen played that role really well and Shane played that role really well. And I mean, Kevin Patullo's whole entire life calling is being a middleman. So I don't see how it couldn't. I don't want to say couldn't work, because clearly we just talked to you about it.
Relax.
But even to that point, like, you bringing up Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni and him being a Nick guy and everything like that, I think that's why it could work. I don't remember how long ago I wrote the article, but a couple months ago it was, at least. But I think that's one of the key reasons why it could work, right? Like, we heard Nick talk about how much he trusted Shane, like, and how him giving up play calling, his first year, and having Shane in terms of him being like a security blanket to lean on because he trusted him. Kevin Patullo is his guy, right? Like he came when Nick came to Philly, Patullo was with him to tour the building.
To play devil's advocate, Kellen wasn't, right? Kellen wasn't. So in my playing devil's advocate, what I'm trying to say is I think Nick has grown a ton in the last couple of years. And I think that's as much of a reason as, Kellen being good at being the middleman as well. But like, if I'm sitting here and like I'm thinking about Quell's point of like, this is like Sirianni's guy, right? And that the other guys were, and Siri just picked up. What are you trying to say to me? But nothing to you. But they're Nick's guys, right? The other hires were Howie guys, right? And even that first year with the hires that they made with
Steichen,
Steichen and Gannon, there was Howie influence on those. So this is really like
Gannon was kind
I
of
don't know. He was in the middle because they worked together, but all things that came out that was Howie Roseman. They gave Nick control of his offense and said, "You can do that. I'm gonna figure out the defense." Yep. And it just so happened that all of these guys came from the same place.
Exactly.
Well, it looks weird, but
because I remember reading articles back then that like Nick doesn't have the same connections from having been in the league as long as like Doug has to have a bunch of guys he wants to build out his staff with. And I mean, we've talked about that before on the pod. So it is fascinating that it's one of his guys, but to me, honestly, it doesn't make a difference. Like I think the way that they were able to make things work last year with a guy who came from completely outside the building. Like let's not forget, like Brian, Shane, and Kevin, they've all been around Nick to some extent, right? Like with Brian, he was on the Eagles for the year or two prior, but Kellen was a completely new person in that locker room, and they were able to make it all work. Now, to play devil's advocate to my devil's advocate, you could see that them being buddies could also be a detriment, right? Where it's like having that third party come in because it's interesting.
Well, I mean, even then, like I feel like what you're saying is a great point. But even then, them being buddies, but the whole process of their relationship was supposed to be he's like
it's called out
branches.
Yeah. No, that's valid, bro. Yeah, I mean, it'll just be interesting to see because, like you said, Brian was very much Jalen's guy, right? So you could imagine that in some of those conversations, he's probably leaning Jalen. Now, is Kevin going to lean Nick? Maybe, but also because of like what we've talked about, where he's kind of been calling Nick out for the last couple of years. Maybe he has that. Maybe he has that ability to just kind of separate and not need to take
play devil's advocate. To take back my role. I do think Kevin Patullo, like you said, he toured the building with Nick. Clearly, that's Nick's guy. I do think as much as Kevin Patullo is a Nick guy, he's just as much a Jalen Hurts guy. I mean, he also mentioned during his press conference that just like he was here with day one with Nick, he been here with day one since day one with Jalen. So like, I'm pretty sure he feels like he has a quality working relationship with Jalen. Now, I mean, I don't want to act like I know everything because when Jalen Hurts got asked to give a ringing endorsement, you guys know how I feel about that. But whatever.
We got a lot to talk about playing devil's advocate. Probably like to play devil's advocate to my devil's advocate. I'll use a wrestling term here, Parth. I don't know if you'll get it. You're working yourself into a shoot, brother.
Telling you.
What does that mean?
You want to explain it, Q?
Basically, you're gonna talk yourself into what your real life thoughts have to get turned into a promo, for lack of a better term, because hey, this is what's best for business.
I looked it up. It said the origins of the hilarious Hulk Hogan catchphrase. Don't work. Good night, Hulk maniacs and jabroni marks without a life that don't know it'll work when you work a work and work yourself into a shoot, Mark. All right.
Only here on the Philly Blitz where you can get wrestling terminology out of nowhere.
Hell yeah, bro!
Like an RKO.
All right. All right. I guess point of that whole conversation, 30 minutes to say, shit. I guess we'll see. So
yeah. That's a great summary of everything. Here 30 minutes later, and If we had the little bars at the end of the screen like they do on YouTube when you fast forward, that's exactly what it would say right there.
Right. Exactly. All right. Let's talk a little OTA. I mean, I think let's just go through and give some initial thoughts, because like we talked about, it's an odd time. These are optional team activities. It says it in the name. And it's about the same guys that are there. That
I think it's organized team.
It's organized activities. You're right, but they're optional activities. You don't have to go to them if you're a vet. So Devontae and AJ are not there.
Is that really true? You don't have to go through them if you're a vet. I mean, like you said, Devontae and AJ aren't there, but I don't know about you guys, but I want to know where the hell is Bryce Huff, sir?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. I don't think Bryce Huff is going to be on the team. I think they're figuring out ways to get him on the team.
Yeah, maybe not, but like,
he's a baby, bro. I mean, are you surprised?
He's come to work?
No, he's a baby, bro.
Dallas Goedert is there. He has no reason to be there.
Absolutely.
Especially after everything we just went through.
He was the highest paid player, like damn near on that defense, and all he did was bitch and moan about not being in the right fit. Like, brother, get over it. Figure it out. Like, it's your job. So I've just been thoroughly unimpressed.
Let's go into the Bryce Huff conversation before we get into the actual on the field OTA stuff, right? Anytime you have a player who's making over $17 million a year and they haven't shown up to any of the offseason workouts, that's a problem, right? And like you just talking about, Parth, I don't think he ever found his footing in this defensive system last year. But at the same time, it's
and it could be a combination of things, right? Like, we know, like, Fangio is hard-headed too, and it wasn't a right fit, but it's also football, man. Yeah. And like, in a lot of it is effort. Yeah. It's just effort.
You weren't good last year, and I mean, granted, like you guys just said, maybe there's a role, especially with June 1st coming up in the next couple of days. Maybe there's
that's kind of what I have my eye towards. It's next week, right? So
yeah.
Or even end of this.
There's a world that he isn't even on the team, and this conversation means nothing. But like, first and foremost, I don't give a damn about your $17 million. You get paid for this. You don't want to come and make a little bit of extra money. This could be vacation money since you're not coming to training camp, clearly. But dude, just in general, if you were on the team and just in general playing football, if I'm Bryce Huff, and I seen how last year went. You say one or two on the field. Right. You say one or two things. Get me the hell out of here as fast as possible, or I can be better. Mm-hmm. And even if I'm not here long term, I can be like, clearly you see that you're not scheme specific. You're a scheme specific player. If you're going to be making $17 million as an edge rusher, you better not be a scheme specific player. So clearly, you need to come out here and figure out, well, what can I do to be better as an edge rusher doing this? That?
And it's like
just be a good teammate. It's the baseline of like, be there for your guys. Like, if sure, like, dude, everybody who's been on a sports team of some sort, or if you've played pickup hoops or anything, like, dude, as long as you show effort, that's all most people will care about. If you can't shoot the ball, just go get rebounds. Just show up to practice, bro. Do the bare minimum, and he can't even do that.
It's a pride thing, right? Like, you would think, like, not only just to prove it to coaches or fans, but just prove it to yourself, bro. Like, you had a horrible year last year, bro. You make seven, again, not to keep harping on the money, but you're one of the highest paid players on this defense. Like, show up,
dude. And then you got guys like Sam Hubbard, who doesn't have a contract, bro. They haven't paid him on the other side. Like, and he's actually a successful edge rusher. They haven't paid the dude. They haven't paid their first round pick. It's like, bro, you are making your money. Show up to practice. It's just like, if you don't have an excuse, right? Like, the only people who had like the O-line, a lot of the O-line was missing. Fine. Most of those guys are recovering from like crazy injuries.
Brother. Jordan Mailata was on the same offensive line with Matt Pryor, Darian Kennard.
It was Matt Mailata left tackle, Matt Pryor left guard, Brett Told at center, Tyler Steen at right guard, and Darian Kennard at right tackle. That was the first team.
You think it'd be easy for Malata to say, you know what, bro? None of the other starters showed up. I'm not gonna show up. I'll be back next week or in 2 weeks when mandatory minicamp gets
That's why
underway.
Mailata is a professional football player after
Yeah.
having never played football his entire life. That's why he's like a all league, left tackle. I always have to mix it up. But yeah, it's just pride thing is right, man. Just do the right thing, bro. Show up to practice. Like this is Reed's first year missing OTAs.
And just even then, I think he's about to get married in July, so we don't know what's going on.
He's probably just busy. Yeah, and he said on the podcast that he's been going to all the other workouts. Like he just missed OTAs, which at the end of the day, like nobody's really mad about that. And again, he could have missed it regardless because like the dude has shown up. He's proven himself. He's a proven commodity on the team. You get some vet days when you're that guy, But when you're a guy who couldn't get on the field last year, when your snap count was 0. You don't get the vet days, buddy. Like that's not.
And to that point, Q, like I do want to preface this with we don't know what's going on in Bryce Huff's personal life, so he could be out for any number of reasons. But at the same time, if the dude just isn't there just because he just isn't there,
he hasn't been to anything.
Yeah, that's a problem.
You can always say like you never know what's going on, and that's valid. But from what we know and from what we've seen and how he's represented himself to the public, and I say this often. Your job as an athlete, what you do on the field is just as important as how you portray yourself off the field. Like these things go hand in hand. He's not.
You're not only representing yourself, but you're representing an entire organization.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah,
he doesn't give a damn about this organization. Clearly,
his money.
You're representing
himself. I don't want to say it like that. I mean, he ain't got his money. He just want to be gone. It ain't working.
But like you said, Pierre, like you're representing yourself, you're representing your family and everything. And like when you just don't show up for stuff, I mean, it's just like, just show up, man. Like I really don't care if you're not good or not. Like, dude, I've cheered for plenty of shitty players, bro. I really don't care. I just want to see that you care as much as I care, and that's what
Josh Adams, man.
Huh? Shout out to Josh Adams. Like any of these guys. Like I just want to know that you care about this as much as I do, because that's when you see these athletes go on the pods and talk about how they love Philly fans, it's just they understand that we just want to see effort. We'll keep you honest. It was Mello and PG talking on the PG pod or the Mello pod. I don't know which one. Too many player pods, but they were just talking about like when you play in a big city, they'll keep you on your toes, bro. Like they just want to see effort. We're not going to just be like, oh yeah, like
maybe next year, man.
Yeah, we'll get him next year. No, bro. Like I want to see you torn up by this as much as I am, and that's why Jalen Hurts will never pay for a drink in the city if he drinks. You know what I mean? Like anything he wants is because we just see.
I think he's a whiskey guy.
I don't think he drinks.
I think if he drank, I'd see a red wine guy.
He seems like a wine guy.
Because you can justify the wine with the good for heart health. I can see that. That's like a Braun thing, old man thing, and Jalen's an old man inside, so who knows? All right, but yeah. So OTA observation though. Otherwise, I think the big thing to call out, Jalen was perfect. Throwing the ball, didn't touch the ground.
I think he missed one pass. It didn't touch the ground, but
all right. Well, they were saying online that he no balls touched the ground, so could be.
At least his May 28th stats, Jalen Hurts was 20 for 21. No touchdowns, no interceptions, but
yeah, he was 8 for 8 earlier in the day, so he must have missed one later. He sucks, so probably cut him.
Shout out ESP.
Yeah,
his little dude, his handwriting was.
That man even got the stats for the backups. I know Tanner McKee stats. Tanner McKee 14 for 18, 1 touchdown, no picks. Dorian Thompson Robinson 2 for 2. No touchdowns, no picks. And
ESP's handwriting looks exactly like how I would expect ESP's handwriting to look like. I'm not.
He released his actual notes.
Yeah.
Oh, he posted a picture of his like notebook. It was so cute. He made the little lines. He made a whole chart.
It looked like an Excel sheet, buddy.
It
was pretty funny, man. But to that point about Jalen and accurate day passing.
His handwriting looks exactly like I would expect
his handwriting to look like. Yeah, it was so funny, bro. I zoomed in to look at it. But yeah, I think it's welcome. We had some days like this last year as well, where Jalen was just kind of cooking, throwing the ball, and then season had its ups and downs. But you could see that he's trying to get faster. And I think that's been one of his focuses as well, like taking off like a half second here or there on certain throws. Just getting better at his craft.
Apparently he's playing chess to kind of improve his decision making, like quicken it up or speed it up a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't remember the guy's name, but
I heard him say just in general that's what he wanted to work on this year.
I'd be interested to see if he gets into that AI thing, the thing that
Jaden Daniels.
VR.
Jaden, the VR that Jaden used and Milrose using now.
That's so interesting.
They're getting Cam Ward into it too in Tennessee.
Yeah,
that's such an interesting thing to like think about or look at. It's kind of like football progresses over the next couple of years, like just the AI and how that impacts that can have.
Because they say you can't simulate game speed in practice, but what if you can in the AI?
Yeah,
and that makes me wonder. That makes me wonder why that hasn't been a thing.
What do you mean?
Like being able to kind of like the whole AI, being able to simulate stuff.
VR technology is just getting to that level of like it was inaccessible. Like some places could have that, but it's more accessible on like a personal basis. And now, like once you kind of have like the VR technology out there, then the football sickos can kind of get their hands on it and be like, oh, how can we do football about this? So it's just the natural progression of it. But I don't know, dude. VR is hard, bro. Like I got it for work. We got those headsets, the Oculus or whatever. They wanted us to do meetings and shit inside. That died pretty quickly because like you put that on, bro, you'll get a bad headache because they put like magnifying glasses, but like backwards, so it makes everything look farther. But the fact of the matter is you have a screen right here on your eye. So you keep that on for like 15 minutes, bro. Like you'll have a headache. You get used to it apparently, but yeah, I mean that they're going to work to improve that over the next couple of years. But what I wanted to call out, I keep moving on from this point, but what I wanted to call out about today is because AJ and Devontae were gone, like we said. Jalen just didn't really attack far down the field, deep down the field, and so it was a lot of shorter stuff, intermediate passing, and Dallas Goedert was a big part of the offense.
In the case, I heard what's the guy name? Oh my gosh, big Super Bowl catch.
Jahan.
First track, Dotson, Jahan Dotson.
Yeah,
he was pretty active. I mean, I don't want to say nothing super. I think he and Nia Smith were the starting receivers. I can't tell who was the starting receivers based on 7-on-7, but based on team drills, those were the first two guys lined up. And it's I want to call him Darius Cooper. I think that's his name.
I got it right here.
The UDFA receiver.
Yeah, from
he had a big. He had the biggest.
From Canada, right?
Tarleton State.
Yeah, he had the biggest.
I had to Google where that was.
Where is it? I didn't look it up. Texas.
I think Springfield, Texas.
Oh yeah.
He seems like an early candidate for one of those training camp darling.
He averaged like 14 or 19 or something.
Yeah, he led
yards per catch.
He led the FCS in yards last year.
Yeah, something ridiculous on yards per catch as well. So.
Did he?
Yeah, I'll what did we just say his name was? That's a bad dog.
Darius Cooper.
Cooper.
But while we're looking for that, I'll touch on some of my kind of big things I noticed with the cornerback battle with Kelee Ringo and Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson was with the first team defense in 7-on-7s, but then when they shifted to full 11-on-11, Kelee Ringo rotated in. I think it's kind of similar to last summer.
They rotated in, but they had Cooper playing.
Well, in base.
Cooper played outside.
Oh, you're talking about a nickel. Sorry.
Yeah. But I think it's similar to last summer in terms of like how we saw Isaiah Rodgers get first team reps in the summer and then eventually Quinyon took over. I think it'll kind of be the same here with Kelee Ringo. I think he's going to win the starting job ultimately.
That would have been a really good point to make last episode. I wonder who was thinking that. I was kidding. Yeah. I mean, this was just kind of my assumption that like you bring in a vet, they're going to make the younger guy earn it from the vet. They don't necessarily want the vet to win the job, but they're not going to just hand it to him on a silver platter. Like you're going to have to do your part. You're going to have to earn it. And I think that's the right way to go. And Darius Cooper averaged 19.4 yards per catch in college. So pretty spectacular, but it is interesting.
Like AJ Brown also.
Yeah. kind of nuts that he's that fast. But it's interesting that they're getting Coop out there at outside corner in base, and I really like that because shit, he's your second best corner, or 1A, 1B, however you want to look at it.
And also, not to cut you off, also, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he got some work with the safeties and
individual drills. Yeah, I got that written down. So I guess my whole thing with Coop, I mean, like you said, Parth, he was getting some work on the outside and base. I mean, like I said on Twitter earlier in the week, A, it's early, and B, the Eagles only ran base 15% of the snaps last year, which ranked 28th in the league. So it's not something we'll see often, but it's nice to see that we'll see it. But the one thing that stood out to me there is how exactly they were deployed. Of course, with Darius Slade now departed, Quinyon Mitchell is cornerback 1 in Philadelphia. And that means when you play cornerback 1, you migrate over to the left side after playing. And I mean, Quinyon has stated he's worked on both playing left and right this offseason, trying to figure out how to get better at it. And it's not like something I'm terrified of. He played a lot on the left side during his time in college. So it's been there. But at the same time, when you think about the fact that when you look at your 2 starting cornerbacks in nickel, and the fact that when Coop was in college, Coop majority played left cornerback when he was lined up at cornerback in Iowa. And of course, as I just mentioned, Quinyon was mostly your right corner. So wouldn't it just be smarter to just flip the 2 in these reps? But doing it at the same time, left side is usually where the best receiver lines up. So it's a lot that goes into that conversation, but it's just a comfortability thing for me right there.
Yeah, and I think, like we just talked about with Cooper getting run with the safeties and then him being outside. And of course, we know he's probably one of, if not the best nickel corner in the league right now. But I think it's just Vic kind of trying to try a lot of different things. And then also, I think they're also kind of getting Quinyon ready to kind of travel with number 1 receivers. Like, that wouldn't shock me at all. And then when you have him travel, you can kind of roll the safety. If you're in cover 2 cover 2, you can kind of roll the safety to the opposite side, which is where a guy like a Kelee Ringo would be if they're in nickel.
Yeah, and I just think baseline, the reason they're doing this shit, like just experimenting, is because you want Cooper DeJean on the field every snap.
At all times, yeah.
You had Quinyon playing every snap. You want Coop playing every snap if you can. Just get your talented playmakers out there.
And I mean, look no further than what Vic said last year. We're going to throw a lot at them early because by the time the season coming, it's week 4, we want you to be ready when I call a play that I ain't called all since the second week of summer. So I got you, have you ready.
And that's your favorite Vic Fangio quote, isn't it?
Yeah. Between that and the whole Zach Bond thing, Vic gave us a lot of good stuff last offseason. I mean, when Vic, the personality is a cool thing to see. But when Vic, the coach, talk, he don't really give you a lot, man. So when he started to let you in, I mean, he's not very stingy with his answers, but he also, like he say, he don't even give his best assistants all his answers. So it's like, you're only getting so much. And I try to, like, as you guys can see from this episode, I try to find anything I can. I will dissect your answers.
I think it's important that we're seeing Coop play some safety as well. Just because that room is it's worrisome. Yeah. It's very young. Like we saw, Reed's not out. Our starting safeties are Makuba and Sidney Brown.
Let's touch on that a little bit there while we had Coop. Go ahead.
I think this is a consequence of obviously Reed being out. When Reed's back, I think they'll actually end up playing Makuba there. I think
really?
Yeah, I think just Sydney's so damn out of control, bro. And I just think that they're gonna just value somebody who's a little bit more cerebral instead of just like.
You think Andre Sam just not even in the conversation? He's just there.
Hey, Andre Sam, brother Tristan McCollum.
Tristan McCollum could be, yeah. I mean, so are they not there? Why? Like, I guess
they are there. They was getting big time reps to everybody. If you were in that safety room, you played.
They mixed in there.
You got reps. So I mean, I guess
Lewis Seen got first team.
I saw that. I saw Lewis Seen got
not as many as the other guys. Like I thought from what I was seeing all around, I thought he was getting real reps. But then as I heard Zach Berman, I believe it was, talk about it, it was yeah, he's clearly behind the rest of the guys. But I mean, they trotted him out there, but he's not going to get no real reps.
I think it's number one. It's early, like we keep saying, but I think Vic Fangio. I think he just wants to get like a look at who fits with who and who fits where.
And it's also OTAs, bro. Like, who gives a shit? Like, just get
Try
out there,
stuff.
you know, like, like, just like you said, Pierre, like, just see what you got, you know, like, test the players, see who can handle what, and see what you can build from there. I think it's a good point, Quell. Actually, I guess I wasn't even thinking about that. We're thinking about some of these younger draft pick guys. That's how
I do think they value Nakobe and they want to get him on the field early.
I
don't know if it could be I don't. And granted, Cooper's like this because he was hurt, but I can see them kind of slow walking Nakobe and then boom, 1 week he's the starter and then never looks back.
Right.
I don't think he's
kind of like they did Cooper last year.
Yeah, and like I just said, I mean, granted, Coop got hurt, which is probably the only reason he didn't start week 1. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you could just look at how they utilize the rookies outside of Quignon. We're gonna slow walk you along, and when we think you're ready, then we'll give you the ball.
Didn't Coop struggle in that last preseason game, if I remember correctly?
Because that was his first game.
That was his first game. He just didn't play as well as he. as you would see the rest of the year. It's kind of nuts. He came back and he was just like best nickel in the league. But yeah, takes these guys time. But I think, to rephrase my answer, I think if they had to decide between Nakobe and Sidney Brown, I think they would lean Nakobe. Now, to your point, Quell, I think if we're looking at week 1 starting safeties, I think McCollum over Andre Sam. I think I would probably be seeing, because I feel like we saw a good amount of McCollum last year.
Yeah, Vic seemed to take a liking to him.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. And I mean, granted, another year in the scheme, hopefully you're better. Maybe he can be this variations of Marcus Epps. I'm holding out hope, but like, buddy,
Vic. He just doesn't seem to like Sidney Brown much from everything that I've seen. Like, and I get it. Like, the dude, he plays out of control. Like, he plays like a bat out of hell. But I mean, he's talented.
Yeah, he's talented, but it's the defensive coordinator, right? Like, we've been talking about who Vic Fangio is, and Vic Fangio just wants you to play smart, right? Like, you want to play hard, but you got to play smart. And Sidney, like, I respect the hell out of wanting to take somebody's head off, but you got to take a second to like take a breath first. Yeah, let's make sure we're taking the right head off, because listen, brother, I'm old enough to remember Andrew Sandejo almost killing.
I just honestly, to be honest, they need to get Sidney back to
nickel
playing his. Yeah, kind of. I don't want to say he needs to be
down in the box.
The small,
just down in the box, but like, you move him.
Give him less responsibility.
Move him around.
Don't make him look at.
Slow the game down for him.
Yeah. No,
he plays like a bat out of hell, because I don't want to say he doesn't understand what he's saying. He does understand what he's saying, but he's so desperate to try to make the play. I just wish the game would slow down for him. It's like, buddy, like, relax, man.
Dude, I'm on. I opened up Twitter because I was like, trying to get to the page and make sure I retweeted our podcast when I see Ndamukong Suh. Want to be elite, not talented, not lucky, not famous, elite. Here are 6 traits I've seen in top-tier performers on the field, in the boardrooms, and in high-stake environments. Relentless preparation, valid. Controlled aggression from Ndamukong Suh. Brother, I remember you crushing people's ankles, dude. Like, didn't you step on a neck, bro? Controlled aggression is insane, dude. If that was controlled aggression, I don't want to see unbridled aggression from Ndamukong Suh, dude. That is terrifying.
Unbridled aggression is left for the football field.
Dude, that man was terrifying, bro. 2012 Ndamukong Suh, bro. Like, that was Nebraska, right? Nebraska product. Yeah.
All right, look,
Oscar.
I always am a guy who tries to root for the defensive player to win the Heisman at this destination. I guess, can we say the defensive player won the Heisman this year? I mean, he plays both, so that's cheating. So I don't know.
Cheating.
It's
not. And like, even dude, anytime a defensive player has won it, they always play offense as well, right? Like, Charles Woodson was playing offense. He was returning kicks. Isn't that it?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like football is like at the end of the day, football is such like an offensive like base sport. Like you got to put up the points to win, right? So I think they just go two hand in hand, and that's why like it was so remarkable when Devontae won it, right? Because he just you have to have like the offensive statistics, and quarterbacks always have the stats. That would have been a travesty if Mac won the Heisman. That would have been
It's
nasty.
nasty work.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Disgusting.
Tyrann Mathieu should be a Heisman Trophy winner.
Who?
But Tyrann Mathieu, they screwed Tyrann.
Tyrann Mathieu, yeah.
But I guess I can lay this out for you guys, and you guys can tell me what you guys have, so we can move on to the next topic and get the people out of here. Just in general from camp, the defensive line work. Oh, I noticed that at least in base defense, Ojomo, Davis, and Booker were taking first team reps. Now, of course, this was because Jalen Carter wasn't here, because as second team came along, Trevor Booker was still the first team defensive tackle. So you can see that's his home. But it's interesting to see that Brian Young and Trevor Booker currently seem to be ahead of Ty Robinson, and he was on the third team with Gabe Hall. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how long he stays there.
Offensive line, Tyler Steen, he got the first crack at right guard. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because, Matt Pryor filled in for Lander Dickerson. And like we talked about, the O-line was missing 4 of his starters with Mailata there. Mm-hmm. What's his name? Kenyon Green. He was there. He was active. He
played left guard for the second team.
Yeah. So I think it's evident that they kind of, like we talked about last pod, they want Steen to win the job. Mm-hmm. It's just him winning the competition.
He's got to win it. And great points on the D-line, Quell. Seems like Vanilla Gorilla's been impressing a little bit. You know? Like
I've heard that he's doing really well.
A lot of this guy could be played. That the one of him with the sled.
The highlight, yeah.
That was nuts, bro. He picked that up way too easy, boy. I was like, dude, those sleds are heavy, dog. Like those, he did. It's like, yeah, I wish I was that strong, bro. That'd be nice. Like, yeah. So it's I've been thinking a lot about NBA comparisons when I think about Ty Robinson, because we had the conversation about like, hey, you're fully built into your body, right? Like you're grown into it. We see it rear its head a lot in the NBA, where like the older guys come in and they dominate right away, and then you kind of see it curtail, right? I had an example in my head. Jaime Jaquez Jr., right? Like that first year he came in, he was tearing it up. Everybody was talking about him. But every year since then, I feel like we've heard less. And now a lot can go into that. The Heat haven't been as good and all those different types of things. But it's just interesting. And I wanted to know what you guys think of, like, you come in and you're dominating because, you're just as strong as everybody else. And I kind of question, because the league has such a wide age range. But do you think it has any effect of like coming in like later? Like, do you think? I don't know what I'm trying to ask here. I think
the reason you're asking.
I'm like, am I ageist because I just think he's gonna suck in like 3 years, 4 years because his body's gonna be tapped out? I don't know.
It's a conversation of kind of like players that have like a high floor,
right?
Kind of because like
high floor versus high floor, low ceiling versus low floor, high ceiling. Taking those bets. And I think third round is also where you want to take that bet, right? Like of like, hey, I think we can get like a guy. Huh? Jalen Hunt, right? It's like two opposite picks, right? Jalen Hunt was like the low floor, high ceiling, and now you bring in Ty Robinson, who's like a high floor, low ceiling-ish kind of guy, but you need both, right? I think that's a really good way to put it, Pierre.
At least about that. How I see it is it's a very interesting take. I feel like I spent a lot of time talking about this during draft season, in articles and podcasts and all that. So I'm pretty sure my opinion about age and things of that nature is well documented. But at the same time of that, like I've said this year, last year's draft class did a lot of opening my eyes of seeing how, while age could play a factor, we'll see exactly how the rest of your career tells on. Now, the big thing about Ty Robinson in Philadelphia and why I'm not too concerned about his age is because usually with players like this, it's not that their play falls off or that they become bad, Parth. It's just they continue to do the things that they did early on. And you look at the players around them who weren't as good early on, who continue to hit their strides and hit those ceilings that we're talking about, and now they're better players. And you're like,
right. So
man, I remember he done surpassed you. But even beyond that, when you look at Ty Robinson or just the Philadelphia Eagles in general, we talked about this on the offseason where the Eagles have a type. They go draft for archetype and things of that nature, especially along the line, the defensive line, where they don't draft you to be here unless you Jalen Carter. They don't draft you to be here long term. If they don't have to. We've seen the whole recycling started off with signing free agents, and then it's migrated to them drafting players like Milton, Morrow, Tui Pelotu. These guys who go on to get paid in other places and things of that nature. But we don't need you to be great at everything. We just need you to be good at what we want you to be good at right here. And if that's what you're going to be good at, and if that's what's going to get you paid, then hey, like, I don't think I don't want to say they didn't see it, because we've had the Milton Williams conversation and his lack of production heading into this season and what he was and compared to what he was by the end of this year. But I don't think they necessarily saw the production they got from Milton, not just as a pass. I mean, I think they thought that he could be a good pass rusher, but
the
Milton, the run stopper,
yeah,
they got some good volume out of Milton in the run game last season. And I don't think they expected that, but that just goes into the development the team has where, I mean, it could happen for Ty. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. At the same time, we've seen this story before, for lack of a better term.
I think it's a great way to put it, Quell, where it's just like he's not sucking. He's just playing as much as he did. And the guys who came in younger they're just younger coming into the league, right? So you have the ability to grow into more. When you're growing in college, you have your college weight room, you have all those things, and you can grow into that spot. But at that point, you're a big fish in a small pond there.
Exactly.
But then you join the NFL, and all of a sudden, like you're bigger for a year, but then everyone catches up, right? Meanwhile, if you're a smaller fish in college, you make it to the NFL and you grow into your size there, you have a lot more room to grow in an ocean versus a lake, right? A lot of fish analogies today. Yeah, I think it's a good point about just like fit, right? The Eagles look at their D-line as a puzzle, and they're trying to get the correct puzzle pieces in there together. And you grab different people for their different strengths. Like that. Like I think the Jalix pick is a great other side of that coin. We had this last topic of Nakobe versus Jihaad, but I'm almost thinking like, do we wait? Because we haven't seen Jihaad do anything, right? He was also one of the players who was out today.
I don't think the conversation should necessarily be Nakobe versus Jihaad. I just think it should be more so. I think it should be more so Nakobe versus the field, or how likely or are the Nakobe's chances of actually getting his job back?
I think,
and that's the thing. I don't think it's likely because number one, Zach Bond wore the green dot. What reason does he have to give it back? Like,
because I don't think
play. That's not his natural.
So it's a two-sided coin. I think that's part of the reason that they went into drafting a guy like Jihaad, especially with his versatility, because we talked about how he's basically Zach Bond. And I generally don't think they enjoyed putting the green dot on Zach Bond because it made you limited in terms of what you could do with him and his versatility. Because he has a specific job.
But that's why them drafting the Jihaad Campbell.
Listen,
guys, are you going to put all?
Time out. We're about hour and 10 minutes in. I think this conversation is going to be a half-hour conversation. If we're being honest,
let's lead next week.
I think we table this because
I want to get into
really good question. I
want to get into it.
It's a really good question. I also just think we need a little bit more context. Is my computer dying? Why is it lagging? Okay. I think we need a little bit more context. Jihaad is also recovering from an injury.
He's not going to play much this spring, and we saw what that did for Cooper. Right. There's a lot that's going to go into this.
And for Nakobe. I mean, we saw what it did for Nakobe. He missed out on his spring as well, and he was behind the 8 ball. I mean, that wasn't even this defense, right? Like that wasn't a defense as complex as this. Personally,
like best of that one.
Huh? I will say this.
Best of that one.
I will say this though. I think that a duo of Jihaad Campbell and Zach Bond adds way more multiplicity.
You like the newest thing.
Wrong.
You're a newest thing type of guy.
My only problem, and I'll leave it at this, and we can have the conversation next week. My only thing with it is, while you're not wrong, I don't think that this isn't a today or tomorrow answer. I mean, the Eagles just signed Zach Bond to a 5-year deal. You got essentially 5 years of Jihaad Campbell with him on a rookie contract and as a first-round pick. Then you look at Smell Mondin
that's why my thing is I don't.
Buddy, he's so small, buddy. Like, and he's basically the anti-Nakobe.
Can you really say that though? In terms of like what do you mean?
Yeah, because he's fat, like he's athletic.
He can play sideline to sideline. I don't think he can deconstruct blocks and get like Nakobe can.
I think you're severely underrating how intelligent of a player Nakobe is.
No. He's very smart. He's an engineer.
Like I know, but like you, like I know your football type. You know, you like explosive players. This goes back to the receiver conversation that we had. But there is still a spot for a guy who knows exactly what's going on, who's played linebacker his whole career, has played the mic, right? My whole thing with this discussion or debate is after this season, because I think Nakobe is going to play this year. After this season, I think they're just going to look at him and just be like, hey, like, appreciate you for your service. I think it depends.
See you down the road.
All right, we're going to just leave it there. It's going to turn into 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I'll turn it off. As much as you talk about cohabitation matrix for Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean is 100% just as important, if not more important. He is the leader of that whole group. You look at any of the videos they have together, Nakobe Dean is the one who organizes.
It's not even just the videos they have together. When you listen to Smell Mondin himself, when you listen to all of these guys who come in modern day from Georgia, they still talk about Nakobe Dean.
He was a standard.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so I think the Eagles also see that, like what he means to the locker room, how he does stuff. And, you know, as we're on the topic and as we're getting out of here, his rehab's going well. And I think everyone
excellent. I told y'all that.
Nakobe Dean had a 4.0, our producer just said back here, in mechanical engineering, bro. Like the guy is a genius.
Yeah, he's smart. He's extremely smart.
Extremely smart.
But yes, stay healthy though.
Well, we'll see. My man's doing yoga. That's right. My man's doing ballet.
Putting all your eggs in the basket of Smell Mondin, who's had injuries in 4 of the last 5 seasons himself, and dating back to high school.
Listen, we're getting the Nakobe Dean, the game plan offseason, bro. It's all good. Come on. You guys got the cut?
We'll see.
The game plan? Are you serious?
With The Rock? With Dwayne?
Yeah, the ballet movie. He's a football player. He does the ballet. Come on. It's wrestling.
You guys know I'm just kidding, right?
If it's not The Rock and he's not wrestling, I don't want to hear about it. Jesus, man. Like, what about Get Smart?
About The Rock. We want to know about the final boss.
I don't know who that is.
We don't care about Dwayne, brother.
I don't know who these people are, man. Is that his name, the final boss?
That's his. Yeah, that's his.
It's not The Rock?
No, it's still The Rock, but
he's the final boss.
You know, this is why every time I'm like, get into wrestling, and then they're like, oh, we're not going to call The Rock. We're going to call him the final boss. Wayne the final boss Johnson. Come on. It doesn't have the same ring to it, bro.
No,
there's no aura. There's no aura to that. The Rock.
The final boss.
The final boss is The Rock.
It doesn't make sense, bro. Your nickname is your nick. You are the nickname. Come on. Like one nickname per person, bro. I don't know.
Oh, see, that's what you see. Until you understand the metric that you're gonna have multiple nicknames, then you will never understand wrestling.
What are you saying?
Shawn Michaels is the headliner, the showstopper, the main event.
Is what you're saying? Don't back yourself into a shit.
Don't work yourself into a shoot, brother.
There you go.
To a shoot. Sounds like some shoots have been worked into, man. Anyways,
Parth can get off here. He's gonna have endless wrestling fans in his comments like, do you know that this is what that means though?
And what I'll say is like, no, because I don't watch dudes in singlets. I watch dudes in singlets with pads on, play football instead. Like
all right.
No, you're road, jabroni.
Listen, I'm just telling y'all, man. You're watching the sweaty dudes hit each other. At least the sweaty dudes I watch hit each other got pads on. That's all I'm saying. That the pads, they matter.
But all right, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. I think we got everything on the itinerary. We are going to have this Jihaad Campbell and Nakobe Dean conversation. We're gonna lead off with it on next episode, next Thursday. But yeah, we're gonna release this as a pod after the stream. So if you're listening after the stream on whichever podcast streaming platform you're listening on, be sure to leave us a like and review. Rate us 5 stars. Shout out to 14th and Market.
Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button there on that 14th and Market,
100%.
man.
Yeah. But that's gonna do it for this
Parth
episode.
ain't got no dollars for you, but
yeah, we ain't got no dollars, bro. Y'all gotta.
we gotta talk to them about that and see if we can get some dollars for you. But I don't think they're gonna give y'all no dollars.
But all right, thank you everybody for listening. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
What's up with you guys, man?